Gero here from Umbra Games with a quick review of Transistor, played digitally on PlayStation 4, also available on pretty much all other consoles and PC in some form. And I'm finally getting to this 2014 release with the recent publishing of physical copies on PS4 and Switch by Limited Run Games. Knew this was one I shouldn't put off for as long as I did, especially with how much I enjoyed Supergiant Games' first release, Bastion, but with a giant backlog, my physical games typically get priority. Transistor is best described mechanically as an action RPG turn-based hybrid. The game is set in a dystopian cyberpunk city with a flavor of like a 1930s high life. You play Red, a former singer who is now mute, and wield a giant sword-looking weapon known as a transistor that talks to you and narrates the action similarly to how narrator did in Bastion. It's even the same voice actor. This time, however, the sword is a character in the story, not one with godlike omnipresence. Something is happening to the city of Cloudbank as it appears a super artificial intelligence is swallowing the place whole. You explore the city in a mostly isometric-like view, where you can search for terminals and items in the environment that help unravel more of the story. I'm not going to go into any more detail than I already have because it's sort of hard to jump in and describe a piece of it without getting into spoiler territory. Randomly as you're exploring though, you'll encounter enemies made by the AI of what's simply called the process. Now, the only game I've seen that's sort of close to Transistor's combat is Breach and Clear Deadline. While you can walk around and use any of your unlocked abilities in real time, in Transistor, anytime your turn bar is full during battle, you can pause the action to give Red a set of commands consuming action points. While you're making your plans, time is fully stopped. If you make a mistake, you can rewind and edit the plan while the game is still in that mode. You can move Red, which slowly drains the bar, to position yourself around foes and choose how you want to attack. Once you initiate that turn though, the game doesn't remain stopped, but instead kind of moves in a slow motion, so while it appears Red is moving quickly to carry out the commands, some of the more wily enemies will begin to evade or thwart your pummeling. Enemy attacks are often fairly brutal as well, and while waiting for the turn meter to recharge, you'll often find yourself trying to simply evade or take cover. New abilities can be unlocked as Red levels up, and the customization here is off the charts. There are a total, I believe, of 16 commands. You can equip 4 as action, eventually unlock 2 modification slots for each of those actions, and you also get to unlock passive slots as you progress. Any of the 16 commands can go as action, modification, or passive, and will behave uniquely in each place. Jaunt, for example, will do a quick dash when it's in a command slot, and adding the mask command as a modifier will make Red undetectable for a little bit after the dash completes. Crash is a sort of downward thrust melee attack, and when mask is applied to that as a modifier, it increases the power of backstabbing with it. Experimentation is the way to go here because sometimes some of the most fun and inventive combinations are ones you wouldn't immediately think about. Now, if your life bar depletes during an encounter instead of death and ability overloads, and you can't use that one for quite some time. This can greatly handicap your ability to even finish an encounter, but even after that, the ability is still unavailable, and you'll want to find an access point immediately to swap that ability out for something else until it recovers. But again, the plus side is it encourages you to experiment. There's a decent amount of enemy variety, and most require a thoughtful approach to tactics. Enemy types also upgrade as the game progresses, adding new abilities or strengths to their repertoire, some more dangerous than others. There's what they call the backdoor area of the game, where a series of event rooms slowly unlock as you progress through the story. Completing these rooms can be quite challenging, and it also allows for some less stressful ways to try out new ability combinations, while also sometimes teaching you things you may not have known about the abilities to start with. They award experience points for completion. Now, as I mentioned, the abilities can be unlocked by leveling up, but with most levels you get a choice on whether you want to increase your overall equipping power, unlock an ability, and or opening another set of items called limiters. Limiters can be put on many at a time to increase the difficulty of certain aspects of the game and also boost your experience while equipped, enabling you to make your playthrough as hard as you see fit. There is a New Game Plus mode that begins immediately after you complete the main story. You keep your experience and character level and your unlocked things and begin the game from the start. All the mutations enemies have experienced also continue, like they get a New Game Plus as well. As with Bastion, Supergiant continues to impress with their aesthetics. I'm a huge fan of the art styling of Cloudbank, the character design, and especially Red and Transistor itself. Everything has a very unique and beautiful flair. I can't compliment the music enough either. This is probably one of my favorite video game soundtracks I've ever heard. So, I know regular viewers may get tired of me talking about my review methods, but Transistor begs me to kind of retread the point. Quantitative review scores are typically meaningless when readers or viewers are making a judgment about whether or not a game is for them based on a simple number. A lot of how I review, and how I feel like all reviews should be done, is if you're going to take a quantitative approach, look at specific criteria of a genre and how a game accomplishes what it sets out to do. Now, of course, there are times when something feels like it just may be blatantly missing or have antiquated systems that just really don't work with the whole picture to the player, but other than that, just try to be objective. But there again, a perfectly made Madden football game awarded a 100 out of a 100 is not going to make me want to play it any more than a 60 or 70 Madden would due to my personal tastes. If someone simply gives a game 8 out of 10 off the cuff, it's usually based on their subjective personal enjoyment in the moment, which sometimes, at least for me, provides a conflict. I've been addicted to games that I've scored under 50, and not really cared or had much fun in games I've given a 90. All of that is said in justification of me giving Transistor a 92 out of 100, where an average game would fall around the 50 mark. Transistor is simply a masterpiece that accomplishes all of the things it tries to do and does so at a highly polished level. It's 5 to 6 hour time period for a single run through, with a unique twist on action and turn-based combat, with room for combat experimentation, a well-told story with a classy art style and soundtrack, that aside maybe from length, which is helped compensated by a new game plus mode, and a little simplicity and the straightforwardness of the level design, there really isn't much to say negatively about Transistor. But don't just take my word for it, or anyone else's. Try and look at the features and the mechanics of the game, and judge for yourself. This is Gero for Umbra Games. Thanks for watching.